Good morning everybody and welcome back to UKU Nationals EUCR West, where it is finals day. This is what it all comes down to. Teams playing for the chance to take home the national title. We're beginning today with mixed semi-final action. Reading Ultimate taking on London's Deep Space. And what promises to be an absolute corker. It's Benjamin Rees here with you in the booth, delighted to be joined, not as bright, I say bright and early, slightly overcast and early on this Sunday morning, by Michael Paul.
Good morning, Benji, good morning everyone else. We have a really interesting first game for you today, Reading Deep Space. There's a bit of baggage around this game. Playing in the build-up to regionals, Deep Space managed to eke it out in quite a dry, dusty, hot 50-minute affair.
I mean, not to be unexpected given the conditions that we've seen so far this summer.
Exactly.
It's been very dry and, as you mentioned, hard and dusty. And in the shorter games, yeah, maybe you don't get the opportunity to really get your teeth stuck into it.
Exactly, it's over before you think about it, before you know it. And a couple of long calls takes time right out of the game. It's anything the antithesis today. Normally length game, overcast, as you said. The ground is much softer with some beautiful venue here at Riverside, UON. But also last year as well, same fixture, same pitch, same teams, like pretty decisive result, Deep Space coming away with it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting certainly whether the teams they just play the game as it is in itself, or whether they have those, maybe that little bit of excess baggage, as you mentioned. How have these teams done so far this weekend to make it into the semi-finals?
So teams, they've had slightly different routes into this. Reading, speaking to them ahead of this game and looking at their results, I would go as far as to say they've not really been challenged. 3 wins out of 3 games, pretty decisive. Deep Space had 2 relatively easy games, but then came across Smog 2, Smog Rising, however you want to approach it. That was a slightly tighter game, so they were pushed a little bit on. We were talking to some of the Reading players ahead of this, and their O-line hasn't really had to do much, only really been turned 3 times, I think.
Yeah, I think they said they've taken the field 16 times, so no. Interesting. Will that bracket, the tighter bracket game that Deep Space had, will it give them, if the game does go deep and it stays tight to the end, will it give them that extra edge? Will the fact that Reading have pretty much, as you mentioned, steamrolled everyone so far, maybe they don't necessarily have those reps that you want your O-line to need to get really dialed in?
Yeah, it's that trade-off between being well rested and having lots of legs and not really being tempered by game warm-up, which is the most important thing. And on that point, these teams across the mixed season, they've had quite a difficult season. There's not been a huge amount of high-level mixed ultimate arranged by UKU. These teams have either had to organise friendlies between themselves or go over to Europe, both of these teams at Windmill, and then going out to Worlds, both having quite successful campaigns.
Reading especially, of course, making the top 8. Yeah, huge achievement for them as a team and as a programme.
Yeah, you could go as far as to say as they subsided down to 8, taking some really, really big wins on their route to that bracket, and almost running out of steam towards the end. Deep Space, again, very respectable 21st, finishing higher than Smog.
It's been a long season for both of these sides, as we mentioned. We've still got Euros to come up in the future. They were out in Worlds in Cincinnati, not even last month, a couple of months ago now. As well, we mentioned early in the season tournaments like Windmill, and got to factor in the World Games into that as well for some of these squads. Some players in these squads, thinking about Bex Palmer for Reading and kind of the talismanic Sam Vile for Deep Space, who was one of the coaches for GB World Games. It's been a long season for a lot of players involved.
It has, exactly, and it raises the question. One of the main talking points for this weekend is, how do you manage that double peak of a season? How do you get your team up and hyped and well prepared for Worlds, and then calm down quickly and then ramp straight back up for Nationals going into Euros? It's been really tricky for teams to manage.
So we've got Reading wearing the I'll call them deep grey with the red shorts. For Deep Space, it is I was going to say clean whites, not so clean for some of them. They look like they've had had a fair few washes with the black shorts and the blue accents as well. It looks like we're going to have deep space pulling to begin the contest. For the gender ratio rules for this tournament, we use gender ratio rule A, which is also known as the ABBA rule. So there's a flip before the toss for the gender ratio for the first point, and then you change it after that, and then after every other point you change. So you the idea is that you always get an equal balance of 4-3, 3-4. And we are also using the prescribed pulling rule, where the gender that has more players on pitch is also the gender that pulls.
That's definitely my favourite thing about ABBA, seeing pulling from a wide range of the team, and it has such an important aspect of defence, where you put the offence, where you start them. If you have powerful female pullers, it's a big asset.
Yeah, it's something that's relatively new into Ultimate, the prescribed pulling rule, but one that I think has been a welcome addition pretty much across the board. Caudron catching the pull for Reading, and we're underway. Lewis slashing downfield from the handler space. Sam Wilson, throw there's a little bit high but caught by Coward, now going towards the far sideline. Leicester looking good in warm-ups, and that one is a little bit of a collision underneath the disc between Coward and Hogan, and in the end somehow perfectly bisected them.
Yeah, lots of traffic coming into that region. I think it's one of those, you see two receivers and you just instinctively throw it between the two.
So deep space with an early break opportunity. Might have to take the expansive swing over the top. Stall count surely rising here. Having to open up the arm, Gilboy putting it deep and too far to be reeled in by Nick Moss.
I think you can put that turn generation down to Cowdrove, but some really, really strong handler mark there. Stopping any reset up the line, stopping the round, generating the turn.
Caudron here is going to pick the disc up. As we mentioned, Reading's O-line hasn't seen the field much so far this weekend. That's only their fourth turn this tournament. Sam Wilson, Robert screaming for it as the reset. Thomas tips it out. Lewis wanted to see if he could get the second effort grab, but it wasn't there. Nice heads-up D that from Thomas. Gilboy with a raking inside flick across the pitch. Here's Moss. Set quite deep downfield so far, the deep space offense. Coming a little bit closer. Gilboy feels like it's holding the disc for a while. Zips that one through, but it sneaks through the clutches of the intended target, Thacker.
Very messy first point now. Not what Reading would have wanted on their first offensive possession, but not being tempered by game experience might generate this. A lot of pressure on this game.
Leicester activating that reset nice and early. Doesn't like the initial look of Lewis, but a beautiful around backhand to Wilson. Wilson downfield to Roberts, looking to attack that break side. Instead, Hogan comes off the front. Got the isolation on Andy Lewis set up at the front of the end zone. Lewis clears through. Still count rising, no reset, but doesn't need it. Wilson just outside the end zone now, on the precipice of the goal line. Get that one-on-one set up to Leicester. Bids for it, but can't reel it in.
That's the third turnover of the point, doubling their turnover count for the tournament so far.
You can tell that there's a bit more extra intensity to this game. Leicester helps herself off the field, but maybe just a little bit winded or shaken up. She will be replaced by, it looks like, Emma Klima on the far side. Meanwhile, Ali Thomas has taken a breather as well, trying to find out who their replacement is coming onto the pitch. Couldn't quite spot the number from here. That might be Joyce Kwok, I think.
Looks like there was space for that shot, just not being able to hang it out into that area for Leicester to run onto.
Yeah, you can see what the plan is for Reading in the end zone, trying to set up those isolations at the front, even if they haven't connected with them. I think that's probably a strategy we'll see them go back to. Layout required there from Davis. Feels like both sides really locked in defensively. Here's Moss on the sideline with those newly taped up boots. Moss opening up the arm. It's an absolute bomb, but the receiver, I think, just caught a little bit too far underneath it. And by the time Thacker got the read on it, it was too far out in front. A slightly sloppy first point, I think, from both sides.
Yeah, definitely feeling their way into this game. But I think sloppy, but also some very, very strong defense from both teams.
Klima comes underneath. Little inside break through to Roberts. No. I think Wisey got the call to leave it there for Hogan. Hogan wants to put it deep, looking for Lewis. Lewis tracks it down easily. Gilboy looks frustrated, but there was nothing he could do. And Reading do finally take the lead. A slightly lengthened hold, but it works in the end. They take a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the score's on the board. Move on to the next point. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but it has shown that we're probably in for quite a scrappy match. It'll be interesting to see if they can tidy it up and maybe look to stretch away. But I don't know about you, but I'm excited. This is going to be a good one. Yeah,
there's certainly going to be an element of not just the result there for Reading, but the process as well. Yes, you can say that our O-line played really good defense to get it back 3 times. But the possessions, there were some dicey moments in all of them, and maybe just getting bored with grinding it underneath. We know that Hogan can have that cannon of an arm when he wants to, and Lewis is generally a pretty good option.
Yeah, anywhere on the pitch. But yeah, able to reel that in quite comfortably. Speaking to him ahead of the game, he's not played a huge amount this tournament. One of the many Reading players who are struggling with a touch of a niggle. It'll be interesting to see how that develops throughout the game. Talking to Deep Space before the game, they were a little bit less chatty, a lot more dialed in, a lot more focused. They definitely want to take this to Reading.
Yeah, I think it's not to say that Reading aren't up for this game, but I think maybe they're just conscious of, you know, been a long season, keep ourselves loose, don't get too psyched up into it. Just take the game as it comes. And as you mentioned, yeah, for Deep Space, they are locked and loaded. Knight with the pull. Sam Vile will catch it, and first O point here for Deep Space. He finds Sandwell. Sandwell towards the near sideline for Iturmendi. Baker comes underneath, being marked by Cardwell here. Vile plants, creates that separation as the reset, moves the disc quickly to Sandwell. Baker's on the far side, that's the option. A big planting cut coming underneath. Pick called, ooh, a little bit of an overthrow.
I think we're definitely going to have a discussion here about whether this turn stands.
Yeah, Withers was the player who was picked, trying to mark Alvaro Iturmendi. I think they are going to decide that has affected.
I think that's going to cause some contention across both, especially the Reading squad. Some people will be sitting there on the sideline thinking that should definitely be a turn.
Resolved all quickly and in good spirits, though, it seems.
Prolonged restart, though. Time for Reading just to catch a breath on defence. I enjoyed what Deep Space were doing, isolating players very well, using the underspace consistently, trusting all of their players. I think that's something we're going to see throughout the game.
As you would expect for players who've played at the top level, the rules knowledge is probably on point. And we're back in play. Samwell clears out. Another jinking reset cut from Vile. So good at squirreling his way free in the handler space. Denniston comes underneath. Certainly, if you're not familiar with Deep Space, going to be a key player for them. Vile now down the line. Very expressive fake. Resetting to Sandwell. Denniston takes that upline space nice and early. Thinks about forcing this one in, but doesn't connect with Iturmendi.
That's a shame. They were looking really, really nice until that point. I think you're right, forced it a little bit. Not a very large channel to throw into, generating a turn. Reading have a chance to put it back.
Yeah, I think that's an option that you would still expect. With it having been thrown, Deep Space would be able to reel in. But I think maybe just one of those situations where you're conscious of the sideline there as well. Coming underneath, the rapid Jen Hagen. Centaurs to Ben Wilson, a player who hasn't necessarily been able to get a huge amount of pitch time yesterday. Again, carrying a little bit of a niggle, but playing here today. Coons with those luminous tights, opens it up deep, and coming over the top, Denniston, max it into the hands. a nice slap of spirit afterwards there as well. And I feel sorry for calling her out like this, but if you don't catch your Ds, unfortunately, that's always the risk you run, and Ben Wilson is there gleefully collecting the trash. Reading break to take a 2-0 lead.
Oh, that is a shame. They've done all the work getting up there with the help D, making it really, really tricky for Palmer underneath the original disc. And just being able to pick up the trash in the back corner of the end zone. That's a good bit of heads-up ultimate from both sides. Yeah,
this throw just hangs up a little bit there, and as you mentioned, that allows Denniston to come across, gets a big hand right over the top, but good hustle and good focus staying with it from Wilson there, knowing that there was, you know, the potential for that tip, the bobble or whatever, and putting himself in that situation to be able to collect the seconds. So Reading turned it over 3 times on their first O point, but somehow made it stick. Deep Space's O-line turns it over once, and they're broken.
Yeah, already Reading utilised a very strong deep game, and we could see it there. Taking on that option, trusting all their players. I think it came down a little bit fortunately for them. We'll see how that develops throughout the rest of the game. But now, big moment for Reading. Can they put another break on this deep space side?
I'm going to channel the great former Yankees catcher and manager, Yogi Berra. The harder you practice, the luckier you get.
Very true, very true.
Which is not true, by the way. I've practiced scratch cards many times and I've never got lucky. Here we go, Deep Space's offense, moving the disc really quickly here. Oyama's knee brace just comes a little bit loose there. Here's the underneath from Fisher. Finding an option at Itamendi on the near side. Itamendi to Denniston, deep. Just a little bit too high, and she can only tip it over the bar.
Very, very smooth offense up until that moment from Deep Space. Running the whole length of the field and only a handful of passes. So unfortunately, they couldn't make that one stick because she was in open space.
A little bit similar to their last point, where they worked it up so nicely until they got to the end zone. Klima just snatches that one in front of Bignell. Reading here looking for their second break. Everything a little bit congested. Ryle is the option in the middle that Bignell wants. He says Ryle wasn't quite happy with his performance out in Cincinnati, so hoping for a sharper weekend on his part. Hutchison, a couple of big lefty handlers on this line for Reading, and one finds the other. Hutchison to Bignell. Bignell with that break around to Klima. Ryle plants, comes underneath, throws a little bit low, but it is well scooped. I think there was a little bit of contact with Vile there coming through, but seems fairly incidental to me. Yeah, you can see that he's desperately trying to get out of the way, but can't quite adjust in time.
I think it may have been a moment of just stopping the pace of play, making sure everyone was okay.
Yeah, which, you know, player safety always paramount.
And it's lovely to see even at this top level of ultimate.
And on a high stall, Bignell sees no other option but to put it deep, and Denniston makes amends by ripping it away in the end zone.
Almost a carbon copy of the dish she didn't catch in the other end zone. Hopefully she can make it 2 for 1.
Denniston finds Fisher on the near sideline. Underneath to Itamendi. Doesn't like Oyama as the first cut. Nice backhand around. Watt and Ryle have a little bit of a problem passing off that switch, but Hutchison is switched on. He picks it up, and Ryle now comes on here to Mark Oyama. Oyama to Baker. There's a little bit of an inside window there. Baker doesn't like it. Looking inside, trying to squeeze through the inside channel. Bignell was ready and waiting and smashed it to the floor.
And now Reading almost catching a march. Deep Space a little bit trailing upfield.
Bignell to Klima. They're already almost at the attacking brick mark. Again, taking the open option there. Down the sideline. Can they connect with Klima? Towing the line. It's another Reading break and 3-0.
Perfect start to the game, apart from the not-so-perfect first point.
I jokingly asked Hannah to bring me a cornetto, and she genuinely has.
Not sure if you've seen the trilogy.
Strawberry?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I know, I'm a mint choc chip man, but regardless, that is, speaking of ice cream, that was cool as ice from Reading after the turn.
It was, and that offense marshalled very well by Bignell throughout, picking up the big matchup of Bale, but managing to get a lot of disc in his hands, distributing it through the backfield really, really well. What you'd expect, nothing less from that mature stalwart of Reading ultimate.
I think what you see there is just the difference that Reading taking the open resets a little bit earlier, and maybe just slightly better handler defense, meant that it was a lot harder for for deep space to reset, and here Hutchison just threads that down the far sideline, waits it well, and Klima doesn't even really need to toe the line in the end. Just good field awareness to know that, you know, there's no point trying to do something acrobatic. Actually, you can just run this down for the break. Reading, after looking shaky on that O point, that you can tell that their D-line's got a lot of reps this weekend because they're humming at the moment.
They are. It'll be interesting to see what happens next time we see Reading's O-line.
What you can see there from the deep space players as well, those hand signals, is they are signaling which gender matchup they are as well, to allow their opponents to mark up effectively. Also helps to make sure that everyone's got the gender ratio right. 4 female matching, 3 male matching players at this point. And so far, deep space just moving it around the back as Reading, clear look here to try and just sag off the handlers, allow those resets to gum up that space downfield.
Has been something they've tried to employ throughout this season and previous seasons. Reading do like a slightly unconventional form of match defense.
Kovshov down the far sideline, winds it up, uncorks it. It's going to be a chase underneath this. Can she run it down? Yes, she can. Cardwell slipped, and I thought maybe that was going to cause enough contact to prevent Ho from bringing it in, but she maintained her focus well, and deep space finally get on the board for 3-1.
Yeah, I think that initial fumble may have been generated by the contact, so it may have gone back either way, but good presence of mind to keep it up. A lovely disc. There was deep separation. Sits up nicely.
Yeah, again, not a lot of margin for error. Keeping it tight to that far sideline, but you can see there Cardwell just slips a little bit. But really good concentration on that catch.
Make sure of it in the end. So now, almost as if we asked for it, we see Reading's O-line again. Be interesting to see if they can be a little bit cleaner this time. We did see them work really, really well until maybe forcing it a little bit towards the end zone.
Again, 4 female, 3 male matching players at this point. So female puller looks like Chao Yan So. Something I think that I think traditionally when teams think of what do you want from a ball, they just want to throw it as far as they can. But hopefully what I think is being encouraged is that there's so many more things you can do with it than just bang it as hard as you want.
Yeah,
you know, can you set up these sideline traps, the rollers, the hangers, things like that?
No, you're correct. Huge amounts of nuance in a pull. Being able to do it well is almost worth a turn in itself.
It's the one thing you can guarantee will happen every point is, well, it will happen someone will pull it and the other team will receive it. So it surprises me a little that teams don't practice setting up after the pull a bit more. Zone coming out here from deep space, trying to find something different to Fox maybe and confuse this Reading O-line, but they're working through it well so far. Roberts downfield to Sam Wilson. Here's Andy Lewis. They are absolutely shredding this at the moment.
Yeah, a slightly different look to throw that zone on. I'd go as far as to say it's not worked. It hasn't really slowed down Reading at all.
So it's a really efficient transition going to one-on-one near the end zone. That looks like it might be a pick. Hogan just whoop, flops that one back to Caudron. So has to take evasive action.
So now almost finding themselves in a set play position. It'll be interesting to see what Reading do with this opportunity. Static start right in front of the end zone.
Yeah. With a stall count that's been there for a few beats as well, wouldn't surprise me to see them try and reset. And that time, I'm not sure whether the throw was a bit behind Wilson or whether he just took his eyes off it, because he stuck his hand out and they just went past it.
Unfortunate, you wouldn't really want to be turning over like that in that scoring position. Deep space now have an opportunity.
And Roberts has been given license to roam and sit underneath into that space. Can deep space take advantage of the poach? Looking to huck deep down that far sideline, but they can't connect with Rawlings. Good look, I think, because Roberts was kind of really unleashed there to just cause havoc. And they found that poach option, they just couldn't connect with it.
They couldn't really sit it up. There was a lot of space to throw into, and wasn't able to sit the disc out in there with enough time.
Deep space trying to poach around that Reading setup. Coward down the sideline for Wilson. Leicester, everything down the 4 side at the moment. for Reading. Hogan takes out of the deep space, still count rising, looking to blade it deep. Dan Hillman all over that one as the rain begins to beat down a little bit harder here in Nottingham.
Reading trying really, really hard to utilise that reset before that turn, but two strong bits of handle and defence, making it really, really tricky, not to mention a very strong force.
It was pointed out that Dan Hillman is a key defensive piece for deep space, something that he shares with his brother, Andy. And we'll see next game, actually, suiting up for Clapham in the Open final.
Yeah, to quote directly, the defensive overlord of deep space.
Ominous. That one might be a little bit overthrown. Riedlover can't chase it down. I wondered if they were just going to take the quick pickup and pop it in for the Swedish, but no, they're going slow.
Yeah, Hogan calling everyone to calm down there. Might see a set play utilised here.
I love it when players call for everyone to calm down and then throw something spicy, but I think they're just going to try and isolate Lewis. And Roberts at the front of the end zone, and Lewis gets the march on the defender. And again, Reading's O-line hasn't really looked like they've hit top gear, but they're just about getting the job done at 4-1.
Yeah, hopefully they are to find a little bit of their group, because they're going into probably a game against Smog, the winners of this. And that's going to be a really, really tough contest to take the top spot.
So there are 4 spots to EUCF taking place in a couple of weeks' time in Caol, Italy. So whoever wins this game guarantees, as well as getting a chance to play for the gold medal, guarantees a spot at Euros. For the loser, they'll play the 3v4, the bronze medal game. The winner of that game also through to Euros. The loser of that game has to play a backdoor game to go against the top seed that comes out of that 5 to 8 bracket. So again, obviously you're focusing on a couple of things. One, obviously you want to win the game, you want that gold medal. You don't come to these tournaments to take home silver or bronze, but also you've got to think about the bigger picture. You've got to focus on, okay, even if we don't win this game, you've got to regroup to make sure that you don't lose out on that Euro spot.
Exactly, and you don't want to find yourself coming from this level down into that game to go. It's always a really, really tricky game to get up for, and the opposition are going to be so pumped to make an upset. Especially
because if you're in that game to go, it will have meant that you've lost 2 games already today for one of these sides, should they be there, and all of a sudden you're a team that's struggling for form against a team that's won a couple of games. It's tricky as a big bid comes flying through from Klima, but Denniston holds firm. Fisher on the far sideline. Opens up a lot of space on the inside channel for the reset, but doesn't see it. And on a high stall, puts it deep. And Lee is right there to reel it in.
Trying to find Akito there in the open reset space. Can't quite nail the shot. Wasn't comfortable with it. Takes the bailout option deep and manages to come down with it.
In terms of a high stall punt, it's pretty effective.
I would agree, I would agree. If you score, it works. And you can't really complain.
You can see there Ryle frustrated on the far sideline. Probably feels that he should have done a bit better with that. Is it the first clean hold we've seen this game? I feel like it might be.
Yeah, very possibly. A very well competed game from defensive sides, I think. It's very interesting developing. I don't think either side have fully asserted their dominance yet. Reading are definitely getting close, definitely the favourites currently. But a lot of time left to come. 4-2 to Reading.
You can see there, that's the inside channel, but he decides that he doesn't quite like it, maybe doesn't think he can squeeze it through there, so just decides to blade it deep, and Lee beats Ryle to the spot of that front of the end zone. Gilboy to pull here for deep space. Gets a lot of air underneath it. Going to give his teammates time to chase it down. Hill catches just inside Reading's end zone. First pass to Hogan. Get Lewis on all sorts of space on this near sideline. He catches, turns. Wilson comes underneath. Now Lewis slashes through into that space. Here's Roberts downfield to Wilson. This looks so much more smooth and fluid from Reading. And Hogan with the hop in for 5-2. That was maybe the best offense we've seen from either side all game.
Yeah, definitely the strongest hold, utilising space really well, really forcing the deep space defenders to worry about that deep space. and utilising the under opens.
It's clear that Reading had a kind of a schemed up set play coming out of the pool, get Lewis isolated on this near side, give him that whole centre of the field to goon around in, so to speak. And I think maybe what we're seeing there is why Deep Space have enjoyed going with those kind of poachier sets, because it does get teams out of rhythm and out of sync a little bit, forces them to go maybe to second or third options, and takes away that initial set play. As Hogan, I'll be honest with these things, I find generally everyone hops it in, and more often than people think, you haven't quite left the ground yet, but everyone on the field seem happy with it, and the goal stands.
Yeah. And point out Gilboy drawing that Lewis match again, and not really being able to cause too much damage to him, getting a lot of disc throughout that point, marshalling the Reading offence.
Yeah, 5-2, so after an odd number point, of course, the gender ratio will switch. And Bex Palmer pulling will tell you that we've got 4 female, 3 male matching players on this point with the prescribed pulling rules. Vial catches and a little bit of a nonchalant toss downfield. Big pump fake there from Handler. Handler opens it up. I think Palmer has read this brilliantly. Again, not sure whether her receiver was the initial target, but got the head up there nice and early. Another break chance here for Reading. Ben Wilson to Knight. Knight, ooh, Palmer fumbles but retains focus well. Absolutely guns it as she's wont to do. And Sandwell gets his head up just in time to get a hand there. Must have got the tip off from the sideline.
A hand, maybe the tip of a finger, just got enough to make it tricky. Disc wasn't quite sailing neatly over into that open space. It was always going to be a tricky catch.
And certainly when Palmer gets the deep, you've got to be aware that that deep throw can go, and that's the power of the sideline there, because they gave Sandwell the heads up just in time.
Oh, it's always the 8th player on the pitch, isn't it? Sideline. A strong sideline is a huge asset.
Especially with both of these sides bringing very big rosters into this game. I think nearly 28 people maybe for Deep Space, something like that. Mid to high 20s. And they needed all of them there. That one, oh, bid, gets a piece on it from Ben Wilson, but Sandwell still there to reel it in regardless.
A bit of space deep, but they're covering the unders, trusting maybe the Deep Space female matching throws not to put that big shot.
Sandwell looking downfield. Lee is all sorts of poached off here. Vial's going to try and strike up line. Reset forces the throw out quite a way behind. Denniston does reel it in though. On the spot to Handler. Running it through their women at the moment. Deep Space. Denniston just outside the end zone to Iturmendi. And Deep Space recover well to put it in for 5-3.
I think that was much more of what they wanted to see from their offense. Using all the pitch very well. Lots of work up the line. But managing to get that one into that far corner successfully this time.
Just under half an hour gone on the clock. Games today played to 15 with the time cap at 80 minutes. There's no half-time time cap, but there is a half-time point cap obviously at 8. And if we haven't reached the 15 by the time the 80-minute hooter goes, you finish the point, add 1 to the highest score, and that becomes your new score cap.
Lots of disc for the Deep Space female matching players at this point. Got a good hand on that, but able to pick up the trash as it were.
Yeah, two sides playing good mixed ultimate.
And again, utilising that up the line space very, very successfully. And the nice little pop into the corner. Good separation for Deep Space.
Yeah, we saw those two fail to connect on Deep Space's first O point, and Reading were able to capitalise on the break, but it seems like they've got that one dialed in now.
Yeah, I think we're seeing both O-lines dialing in a little bit better against this high-level competition. And I wonder if we'll see Reading's O be as clean as we did last point.
Yeah, maybe now, getting more regular reps. They feel like they've found a bit of a groove. That ball is just, I think, going to land out of bounds on the far sideline.
And along the conversation lines of pulling, both agreeing it's a very important part of this game. A bricked pull, especially at this level, is a massive handicap for the defence.
It's interesting with pulling. I've got a theory on this, but I'll come back to after this point, or at least when there's a suitable break in play. Hogan brings it in at the brick mark. Leicester charges off deep. Thought the throw could have gone to Wilson, instead broken to Lewis. Lewis uncorks the bomb. This one's floating. Well reeled in by Sam Wilson. Hogan. They've got Lewis wide open on this near side. If they can find him, they can. Fakes the first backhand. Reading trying to get set up outside the end zone. Oh, that might have been tipped, and Wilson just about picks it up at the second attempt. Wow, Reading got away with that one a little bit.
They did a little bit. One thing that was noticed yesterday, the pitch we're on currently, there is a wind channel coming from the left of screen into that end zone, and it is making a lot of discs pop up like we saw there. Reading have played on this pitch already, so it would have been interesting to see if they had noted that and changed how they were operating. But
yeah.
your point on pulling?
Just going to see the replay, because I'm not sure whether Hillman got a bit of a tip on this with the foot. Ooh, it was mighty close, and the bit of air bounce. Wilson just off the wrist, but he recovers well. So what I've seen is teams, especially with their their gun pullers, they give them license to really try and nail those throws towards the back corners. And if they get it off and it's bricked, well, obviously that's not a great result, but we trust that we can play good enough defense from the brick anyway. But if you can nail it into that back corner, in a game, especially in games where breaks can be so tight because you're not necessarily getting a lot off your opponents, if you can nail one of those back corner throws, it puts the offense under so much pressure. And if you do get the turns, often you get on a short field, you've got the Callahan opportunities, and sometimes that one powerful pull can be the difference.
No, exactly. And especially with those big hanging, rolling pulls. No one wants to be an offense in their own end zone faced up against a set defense. Almost like this.
Yeah, another deep bomb there coming out of Reading. Oyama catches and finds File. Resets back off to Handler. Handler's got the reset available again. Reading happy to sit off ever so slightly, allow the Handler passes to prevent deep space getting anything really cooking downfield.
Seeing a lot of deep space playing offense in their own end zone. This is danger territory.
Because they are very far back in their own end zone now.
All coming from that pull, as you noted.
A little bit of space for the strike from Oyama, and Oyama looking deep again. Denniston timed it brilliantly. Good read, got enough of a box out on Klima. Bignall didn't get there with a help defense either.
Lots of pressure coming in there. Should have heard him coming. Great presence of mind to take that disc down.
Denniston to Baker, who toes the line. Doesn't like the forcing on this occasion. Just going to space things out a little bit. The long reset back to Oyama. Oyama to Vile. Now they're trying to attack the break side. That one's too far out in front. Bignall with the quick pickup. Trying to strike before the defense is ready. Bignall fakes Lewis deep. It's not Lewis, excuse me, it's Joe Brown. He's got a little bit of a dodgy ankle, reckons it's about 90% at the moment, but it looks good there. Into the end zone for Bignall, and another Reading break. 7-3 they lead.
Domineering performance so far. Deep space did look good, and well, once they got out of the end zone, that big pull, getting them halfway up the pitch even more. But Reading able to capitalise really quickly. Bignall showing very good presence of mind to notice that deep space were reeling, there was separation. Val stopping the initial shot deep, but eventually one came.
Here's the put that opened things up for deep space, a little bit of inside out shape on it. Got the size matchup downfield with Denniston up against Klima, and Denniston rises brilliantly to snatch it away. But this was the turn. Oyama just a little bit too far out in front of Baker, trying to set herself to bid, but was never really quite there. And Hutchison finding Brown again with that big deep cut, had to be respected. Opened up the space underneath and bombed this to Bignall for the score. A little bit of a timeout here called for both sides to get a chance to get their heads back. Teams get 3 timeouts to use in a game with a maximum of 2.5. So while the teams take a breather, we will do so here in the booth, but we'll be back with you very shortly.
We believe mixed is the best for the sport, for the world. That's why we're making a global showcase, starting in Europe, made in Amsterdam. ULTI.TV, ULTI.net.
Welcome back to the Highfield Sports Ground here at the University of Nottingham. University Boulevard in the background. Saw someone just scooting past. It is overcast, slightly damp day. There is rain in the air, but nothing too much to worry about at the moment. And yeah, all in all, I think pretty good ultimate conditions, especially given the dryness we've had this summer. A bit of rain is always welcome. It is the UKU Nationals / EUCR West. Got a mixed semi-final action for you, with Reading really in the ascendancy here, taking on their relatively local rivals, Deep Space of London. Benji Reese in the booth, joined by Michael Paul. What have you made of it so far?
I've enjoyed it so far, but the scoreline wasn't quite as close as we expected. As we mentioned ahead of this game, there's a bit of baggage between these teams, some very close contests recently. Reading did have a better time of Worlds, but Deep Space also had a very successful campaign. I think defense has been a strength of both teams, but Reading's offense has just been able to look smoother, more consistently, I would say.
I think Reading were aware that there's a little bit of a target on their back. You know, they made top 8 at Worlds, and I think, you know, maybe that means teams, obviously, you always want to play your best, but, you know, they're maybe just a little bit of extra spice, teams thinking this is a top 8 team of the world, and here we could prevent them from even being the best team in the country. Sandwell to Vile, just pops that one out in front. Fisher down the sideline, Itamendi. Denniston marked by Hagen. Looking, Lee is wide open as the reset.
Another big poach from Reading. Palmer that time looking to cover the deep space.
Yeah, they're happy just to let players free in the handler space in order to make sure that they're picking up those more dangerous threats downfield. Although, with a player who's that far poached, I'd have liked to seen Deep Space really attack that, you know, bounce the disc off of them, get them plenty of touches, get them those yards into those dominating positions.
I think you're exactly right. She received the disc, and within a couple of moments she already had a force on. Reading doing very well to recover from those poached positions.
Deep Space resetting while their offense gets ready to go. Sandwell wants this one down the line and finds it to Fisher. Fisher to Itamendi. And, ooh.
That looks like a hamstring. That looks really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Have you ever pulled a hamstring?
I have, playing cricket of all things.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I've pulled it playing Frisbee, and for those of you at home who have not, let me tell you, it sucks. It absolutely sucks.
I think that is the correct way to define it.
Yeah, I would imagine that we might not see any more of Itamendi this game, to be honest, and maybe not this tournament, depending on how bad that is.
Hopefully it recovers soon. No one likes to see someone be injured. We all know what it's like recovering from an injury, and it is a particularly difficult time.
Especially with the hamstring, because you can't really rush it when it's just good to go when it's good to go. Dan Hillman comes on as the injury replacement.
Reading, interestingly, haven't taken a sub.
No, still happy with the 7 they've got out there. Utilising Lee as the reset, again being poached by Palmer. Hillman faking the inside flick, going around to the backhand. You can see that they're just letting the resets have that space. And Deep Space trying to take advantage of that. Little push pass inside to Vile. Now continuation, Denniston reaches, reels in. Finds the inside channel, a little bit too far. Fisher lays out, and it bounces off the palm. Again, Bignell with the quick pickup. This time Withers is the target. Floats this one. Ben Wilson brings it down. Doesn't like the look of Cardwell up the line. Knight clears through, instead wants to zing this into the centre of the pitch where Lee was waiting for it.
We'll point out that shot to Cardwell that wasn't taken. Dan Hillman flashing just a little bit into the channel just to make the thrower think twice. Reaffirming what we've heard earlier about defensive mastermind.
Vile with a big swing to Fisher. Toes it inbounds comfortably. Now opens it up, looking for Sandwell. Sandwell up against Ben Wilson, and in the end, got way too far underneath it.
Yeah, strong positioning from Wilson there. Stood his ground, went up with him. Good boxing. Reading get another shot. Taking their time now, moving Dom Knight over to the disc, setting themselves a horizontal stack, giving themselves time just to take a breather. Game management is an incredibly important skill at this level.
Knight strides to the end zone. Wearing that 5-panel hat. Here's Cardwell into the centre, a little bit of a pop-up. Not a problem for Bignell. Knight to Ben Wilson. Finds his namesake, Ben Withers. Cardwell doesn't like Palmer there. Hagen's got plenty of separation, gets the disc out of her hands quickly to Bignell, was looking for the throw and go to take off up the line. Decided against it in the end. Cuts one way, then t'other. Big pump fake from Knight. Tried to draw the foot block out of Vile, maybe more. Here's Bignell, doesn't like the look down the sideline. Probably wise. Does lead that into space, nearly too far. And Withers wants to take advantage of the defense on their heels. And Reading break again for an 8-3 half-time lead.
Wow, great use of the inside space there. I think that point showed there was big variations between the pace of play and the momentum, and then slowing down, holding, waiting until people were ready, and exploiting the options when you saw it. Really, really mature offense. Bignell running it throughout that point.
Yeah, that's the veteran savvy there of Bignell, of course, represented Great Britain at senior level, and you know, as we mentioned, been a key cog of Reading for so many years. Strong performance at not only the World Championships, but also at Masters World out in Limerick, where Reading sent a team and had a successful campaign there as well. So a little bit of a break for half-time here. Give the teams a chance to make some half-time adjustments. We'll take a breather in the booth as well. Don't go anywhere, because the second half of this mixed semi-final here at UKU Nationals continues on the other side.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
fund
our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
The ultimate things in life are free, and we're keeping it that way. Subscribe to keep up with the latest games, tournaments, and community content. Share it with your team and friends, and drop a like to help spread Ultimate to more people. Spread the word, spread the love. ULTI.TV.
Right now, he's gonna have to bid. Just a football!
Huge layout block. Unbelievable stuff on the front corner of the end zone.
Maybe just that boost of energy they needed. Huge swing pass and a great grab there from Spear.
And here we are back at the Riverside Complex in Nottingham for European Qualifiers West. The rain has started to come down a little bit more, slightly more overcast and miserly than it was yesterday. But we have a beautiful setting here with the trees in the background, the tram, every Sawford, and the lovely skyline of Nottingham. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the break. What do you think of that first half?
I thought it was really good. Reading, it was a shaky start, but they've really dialed it in now. Deep space look a little bit punch drunk, I think.
Yeah, reeling a little bit. One of the things that was mentioned, or we forced to be mentioned, I guess, when we spoke to them, was previous interactions between these two teams, and Reading said that they have seen a lot of adversity this season. Some really, really tough games at Worlds compared to 2021, where they almost walked into this game, weren't ready for it, and they've definitely come ready for a fight.
Yeah, came down from behind to win their round of 32 game against PBHG, and their game to make the top 8 against Meklau.
So I think the main topic would be, what are Deep Space going to do going into this?
Yeah, they've got to do more than just put in 0 points. They've got to find ways to break their opponents. So that's something they've not done so far this game.
Exactly. I think one thing that's dominated defense from both teams, to be fair, is that help D. Looking to try and stack the deck in your favor, make sure you get those Ds, and it's not really generating any turns. Either team. Both of these teams like to use that sort of defense. Both are very experienced in doing it. Maybe that's why it's not working for them. So,
for those of you watching, hello. Welcome to the ULTI.TV YouTube channel. Ben Juries alongside Michael Paul here with you in the commentary booth. Thank you very much for watching. A reminder that all of our coverage this weekend and EUCF coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and the other bits and bobs we do as well, like Glasgow next week. You can watch it all live here for free on ULTI.TV's YouTube channel, and if you think that is something worth supporting, as we do, then for as little as a couple of currency a month, you can become a member of our Patreon page, and you can help us grow the spread of Ultimate by producing free live coverage for the people.
Exactly, and also become part of the community.
Absolutely, yeah. Get maybe some of the added extras. Get those Patreon votes where you can get a chance to pick some matchups you want to watch. I know that we'll be running a couple of those at EUCF in Cole in, let me do the maths here, 1, 2, 3 weeks' time. I can count. Yeah, it's been a bumper summer of Ultimate here on ULTI.TV.
It has, and I mentioned to all the people working behind the scenes. It's been a long, hard work. It takes a lot of their time. Doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, they always do. Shout out to our phenomenal ULTI.TV crew. There we are. I've made the crew happy now. It's always a good idea to keep the people who make the stream work happy, because if you don't, they can immediately shut you down. A roller pull there to begin the second half from Reading. Handler appropriately will bring it in on the far sideline. That's an example of normative determinism if ever I've seen one. A bit of football there from Sam Vile, but needs to evidently do a bit more keepy-uppy practice as that one goes out of the far sideline. It was a really narrow channel to throw into.
It was, and that's not what they want to see coming out of half. They needed to put this point in, and now Reading have an opportunity to really re-stamp their authority on this game.
Knight with the high release break. I don't think Palmer towed it in, and she knows it.
Did a huge amount of work to try.
Yeah, they got that isolation set up, Palmer on Baker, and Knight with a high toss there, but just couldn't get that edge on it to bring it back in bounds.
So Deep Space operating now with a life.
Yeah, more zone this time from Reading, and we've seen it really has slowed Deep Space down this game, so not a surprise to see them try something a little bit tricky again. It's like a 3-3-1 to me. Nice little scuba over the top there to Vile. Oyama wants it back, gets the high release down the sideline. Got Klima, Cardwell and Withers at the front. Knight patrolling the point. Hagen, Palmer on the wings, and Coons deep.
Only currently really looking to work it around the backfield. Big swings being taken. That one just being kept up, but not really looking to advance very quickly.
That was a tricky catch for Oyama, but he nailed it. Baker, not seeing a lot of help, everything very congested near her, but she just about finds enough room to find Fisher, and Fisher wants to move it off that sideline quickly. Vile holds for a while. Everything looking very static for Deep Space.
This is exactly what Reading will want. With such a lead in the game, taking time out is not going to hurt them in any way. Deep Space need to attack this a little bit quicker, I would say.
And that one just, and I mean just past the bidding Klima. But with a player down, out of position, the risk-reward means that now they can move the disc a little bit more freely. Klima gets set back in position. Yeah, I think you've noticed that Rachel Lee is just kind of loitering out in that deep space. They're waiting to see how far Coons will cheat up.
There's a big separation there. Coons trusting himself to be able to get there. He is a big man, and he does get up high.
Yeah, and he covers ground quickly. deep space. Working it to the halfway line now. Vile wants to fire this one downfield to Baker. Baker to Denniston, keeps it alive. Quick dish off to Handler. Handler to Oyama. Oyama to Vile for the deep space score. Patience is a virtue for the Londoners.
Indeed, but when they finally got their momentum going, it looked really, really strong. Patient until they could find those spaces and then attack them ruthlessly. Exactly what they would want after that slight wobble first pass at the point.
How do you think Reading will be evaluating the performance of that zone? Because it really did slow them down. They got a turn pretty, I mean, almost immediately with it. And we're going to get a slow motion replay here as well off that catch on the far sideline from Palmer. Oh, ooh. It is mighty, mighty close. But on the field, I think Palmer almost called it on herself that she didn't think she kept her feet down.
But I think there is maybe half a frame where it looks like she has contact with the floor and the disc.
That was that huge layout from Klima that came up empty.
To your original point about the assessment of that zone, I would say Reading would be very happy with that zone based on 2 points. It took a very long time for Deep Space to manage to put the point in, and they bought a ticket. They almost generated a turn with that big Klima bid.
Yeah,
that's
they
exactly
had
what they want.
A couple of other dicey moments in there as well. A few layouts required to save possession. As you mentioned, it took time out of the game as well. Yeah, I think Reading's D-line will be happy with that one. Also because it gives their O-line a little bit of a break.
Exactly, and that's one of the big jobs of a D-line. Keep the opposition O-line on the pitch, keep yours off it.
So about half an hour until the cap comes on. You can see the winds just deviate the flight of that pull. Hill picks up and fields. Here's Roberts on the far side. The rapid Leicester gets it. Wants to get it off the line early. Finds Roberts. Hogan muscles his way free at the front. And now he wants to muscle it deep as well. Looking for Leicester as the target. Really good help defense again from deep space.
That one was definitely put up into the mixer.
Right. It's Joyce Kwok, I think, who was switched on enough to get in the way and knock it to the floor.
Yeah, but to be honest, slightly new in mixer. Up into the mixer into 3 different female matching sets of players.
I mean, this just feels like some 500s, to be honest.
Almost got there. I think one of the main issues with that would have been 2 defensive players in her eye line, making it tricky.
Yeah, especially defenders wearing white jerseys as well. Sometimes it is tricky to spot the flight of the disc. Here's Mombo now on this near sideline, one of our ULTI.TV crew. Always good to see T strut their stuff on the field, but that time couldn't connect.
Reading get another opportunity. Hogan moving towards the disc. Setting up another side stack with those isolated players. A lot of what we've been seeing from Reading's offense so far.
He's just having a check of the disc here, is Hoagie. And the Irishman doesn't particularly like what he sees.
Another member of the ULTI.TV team.
Yeah, he's in our big global group chat and does a lot of. He's frequently seen roaming around with a camera of his own. Someone else who's it's always good to see people who have that passion for growing and spreading the game. Here's Hill. Underneath to Roberts. Robert wants to gun it to the end zone, where she finds Cordron for the score, 9-4.
Cordron acres of space there, dragging a defender back towards the stack and seeing the open spot. Reading starting to stretch away in this game. Deep Space haven't come out of half as hard as I'd imagine they'd have liked to.
I think that's the other advantage of playing the zone coming out of the half for Deep Space is just slowing down Deep Space's offense, not really giving them any rhythm or flow.
And also the power of giving them something slightly different to look at. They may have had a couple of conversations about how they're going to attack what they've seen so far. Good game management to change what they're seeing.
So a 5-point lead at the moment for Reading. Would take some hell of a comeback from deep space from this point. But the great thing about Ultimate is that as long as you have to score that last point to win, it's always on.
Yeah, it's definitely not completely out of the picture. It's a quality outfit from deep space. They have the players to generate these turns, and they have the players to put them in. But you do feel they can't really afford any more mistakes.
Yeah, they've not given themselves much, if any, margin for error. Brilliant pull, screwing across the pitch, landing, fielded by Handler. First pass is to Vile. Just again past a bidding defender. It's Watt this time, picks himself up, dusts himself down. Denniston. Cheeky little inside through there to Fisher. This one, it's a big ask for Vile, but he runs it down well. Gets his feet set, quickly gets it off the line to Sandwell. Sandwell going back to Handler. Again, deep space doing the right thing if they're not seeing movement downfield, just resending it in the Handler space. Now Lee on the far sideline, trying to lead this pass, finds Fisher, looks into the end zone because he wants the continuation, but it's not there, and gets this one out nice and early for Lee to chase down the rain, pounding down a little bit harder now as deep space try and fire themselves up for a comeback. 9-5 they trail.
Carbon copy almost of their last score. We're seeing lots and lots of Ultimate played on that far channel, running up the line, being able to get some momentum and pushing it all the way. Rain is starting to come down a bit heavier now. Hopefully won't make too much of a difference to the Ultimate, but the disc is going to get slippy as soon as it goes to ground. It's going to be slick. It's going to make it harder for every single player on that pitch.
Yeah, we've mentioned the fields in really, given the weather we've had, really good condition here at the Highfield Sports Complex at the University of Nottingham. Our own Rob Henderson was telling us last year that the lines are they're robot painted.
That's fantastic.
They've got they program the dimensions in, and the robot does the painting, which, I mean, technology, right? On the other hand, stop taking our jobs.
Indeed.
But it just goes to show, like, the level of care that's taken at the complex here. First Nationals here last year, and again, lovely to be back here this year. It's also, I think, quite a picturesque setting with the line of trees behind the end zone over there, University Boulevard in the background. You get the tram sort of scudding past as well. Yeah, it's a lovely little venue here.
Fantastic, and being based in Nottingham myself, I can assure you that not all fields look like this. The field we trade on looks like sand.
I'll be honest, yeah, the scenery is a lot more appealing than the wind farm is. That is a howitzer of a pull from deep space. Hogan feels it right at the back of his own end zone. Finds Lawrence Hill. Hill, can't connect with Roberts. You mentioned that the disc might be a little bit more slippery, and I wonder if that had an effect there.
Exactly, and also a slightly different look, changing it up. Reading maybe rushing it. Deep space have a chance to start buying themselves back into this game.
Gilboy picks up. Still count rising. What will Gilboy do? Just fires it into the end zone. Moss lays out for the first deep space break of the game.
A lot going on there. Really, really good work from the Reading defensive players, stopping the isolations, 2 separate isolation attempts, and then just finding the gender mismatch on the opposite side of the end zone. Almost a bailout, a high stall out, but it works.
Just saying, you know what? Sod this, I'm not getting stalled out. I'm just going to fire it in there and see if someone can make a play. And boy, could Nick Moss make a play.
Yeah, Lewis also making a play on that disc, not able to quite get there. But doesn't matter how ugly, doesn't matter how you do it, they've put the break in.
Yeah, that's the first break of the game for deep space. Need to find a few more of those, such as the hole that they dug for themselves in that first half. And I think when deep space's D-line had the disc quite early on in the game, we did see Gilboy does have a tendency to hold the disc for a while, and this time just rips it, and Moss answers the call.
Yeah, had a lot of work to do there. But Reading's O-line, first time, put under a little bit of pressure on the defensive side of things. Let's see how they come out against it. Probably wouldn't be too concerned about that considering the nature of the turnover. A mistake, just move on. Something they were saying before the game. That's kind of their ethos for this season. If forget about the issues, move on to the next point. I won't say exactly how they described it.
Sumo, they called it. I will describe exactly how they put it. Sumo, sharp and move on. Which, you know what? I like it. I genuinely might start using that. And not just because I'm not as slim as I used to be. Cordron on the far side. Back to Hogan. Deep space, trying some zone of their own. Why not? Use your full bag of tricks at your disposal. Coward to Cordron. Oh, thought she was going to pop that back to Coward, but sees the space to slice it through to Hogan. Round about the brick mark. I think Hogan was really kind of weighing up whether to throw that deep shot. I think he really wanted to, but decided against it.
Yeah, he did have a couple of looks over to those swings, didn't he? Really wanted to take the deep shot.
Does the phrase, discretion is the better part of valor?
And when against the zone, that is always the case.
Dissolving to match defense now. Deep space D-line.
Another very smooth switch to match defense as well.
And Hogan just flips that one into Sam Wilson at the front of the end zone. My word, they turned on the Jets quick there.
Yeah, Omar Khan trailing a little bit there. Maybe not quite on it from that switch.
Yeah, 10-6. The finish line may be in sight for Reading, but they've still got to make, just make sure that they're aware of deep space in the rear view mirror, if I might continue that analogy.
Well, you can't take your foot off the pedal.
Nope, it's good. I'll allow it.
Yeah. Bumper to bumper. They'd like to be. I think there was a bit more space. Perhaps that 2-second gap.
And you see there as well, just moving it so quickly. Leicester off the sideline, and Hogan, it's almost in and straight out again. Just do not give deep space any chance to catch up to it. That's what I think good teams do, is that you can play with the tempo a little bit. Yeah. And you can slow it down when you need to, grind it, reset it, play the more expansive style, but also you can flip that switch when you see the opportunity and really just pinball the disc around.
I couldn't agree more. I'm a massive fan of managing tempo in games, and I think it's a good sign of a strong handler, being able to utilize the reset space, slow down the tempo of the game if your cutters and receivers aren't in a good position, but when you see the opportunity, strike. That one just sails out of bounds. Deep space select to brick. Bar moving the disc to that brick mark. Setting up in a side stack again, looking to isolate players, maybe trying to force Reading to move away from their switchy defense. Lots and lots of space to operate with. Utilising their female matching players in that open space. Managed to get the disc.
Denniston coming low. Oyama wants to shoot that through, looking towards the far sideline. What a throw that is. Rips it across the pitch, chased down from Lee.
Beautiful example of throwing your receiver free. Defense didn't really have much of a chance. Spotted the space, back corner, put it on a dime. Beautiful shot. That's exactly how deep space want to be acting, how to get back into this game. You can see them, they're getting pumped. They liked that. Reading just trudging back to the line. Though business-like, they've still got a big margin, but they need to keep putting the work in.
We've only had one break in the second half, right?
Fantastic shot there from Akito. And just sitting it into the back corner, easy as you like. Defense didn't have a chance. Bit of frustration there that there wasn't an up call. If I was in that position, to be honest, I wouldn't really be expecting that shot to come, so it's understandable.
Yeah, caught them off guard, I think. Just the one thing, there is a little discrepancy about the score, at least as far as we're concerned. We have it as 10-7. Down on the pitch, they have it as 10-8.
Another bricked pull. Maybe an impact of the weather, slightly slippy disc, reduction in control. Hogan not rushing over to the brick mark. making sure he gets time to clean that disc, gives him the best opportunity to get that big rip out.
I mean, when you've got the long chance to jog in from the sideline, there's no excuse not to, I think. But even when you're in play moving it quickly, if you're not sure about it, I always think it's better just to take that second to wipe it rather than sacrifice the disc just slipping out there. As Bignall and Hogan slice through the front of the zone, and now Lewis and Hogan on the run. Already they're only a couple of yards outside of the end zone, knocking on the door. Will deep space let them in?
I think only Bignall, Lewis and Hogan touched the disc at that point, utilising that handler space really well, shredding through that zone.
And there's the tempo we spoke about, and what would you call that? It's not even, no, it's quicker than an andante. Allegro, maybe? It's been a long time since I learned all this stuff. Regardless, sweet music being made for Reading, just moving it so quickly, waltzing their way into the end zone.
Yeah, definitely the only real partner in that dance. Deep space were caught on their heels a little bit, weren't really able to have much impact on that flowing Reading offense.
Again, Reading just keeping their distance over their opponents at the moment. End in sight, but not there yet.
Deep space are ready. They need to get back into this game. First thing to do is put this offensive point in.
They have solved the mystery on the field. It is 11-7. ULTI.TV wins again.
But definitely some other conversations happening. Bit of confusion maybe over the gender match.
Yeah, I think that was partly one of the reasons that probably helped them work it out as well.
Oh, I'm not one of those people that can work that sort of stuff out based on the score. It just doesn't come naturally to me.
You'll get used to it. I think the ABBA rule, gender ratio rule A, is especially at serious tournaments like this, I think is the way forward. And there's a reason that it's become basically the default system now. And the prescribed puller rule is just another added nuance that we really like. Here's Vile looking deep, putting a lot of air underneath this. Coons, up against Lee, and maybe Coons got a tiny little piece of it. Either way, James Lee couldn't bring it down. Bignall just going to look small on this occasion. Swinging around to Palmer, popping up to make that catch. Snags it in. Palmer, Bignall scuttles his way free. Little low release inside flick finds him.
That is indicative of players who've played together for a very long time, knowing that channel's going to be open.
And also just the confidence. Yeah, I can squeeze this in there, of course. Hutchison wanted to gun this and maybe got a little bit greedy with it, because that allowed Fisher to come all the way over from that far side of the field and close that window.
Yeah, definitely Watt shouldn't have really worried about the end zone there. Go and attack it, get that disc. It opened up the opportunity for the defender.
If you are going to attack the end zone there, which I can see why you'd want to, I think you've got to go with that around flick again. So you've just got to make that defender work a little bit harder, get a little bit further to close that option off, although obviously that's a lot easier for me to say up here in the booth.
Maybe a moment indicating that Reading's foot has come a little bit off the pedal, starting to ease in towards the end of this game, something they can't afford to do.
Oyama dumps off to Fisher, and they're trying to run it through. Fisher, who was poached, and Fisher does get the disc now. Lee grinds underneath towards this sideline, looks for Baker deep, doesn't like it initially, instead goes short to Fisher, surveying his options here. Oyama going up line, wanting to squeeze that one in. Baker past the bidding Cardwell. Baker to James Lee, brilliant low release into the end zone for Fisher with the old little clap spike for 11-8.
A tidy little bookends to have a bit of an impact on the game.
Yeah, Fisher reeling that one in.
So Deep Space have now finally moved up to 8. That's 11-8 to Reading.
Seeing here, it's the on the replay. Just past Cardwell. Leaves her feet on the landing as well.
It's one of the worst things about slick grass. If you do bid, it takes you a long time to get back up.
And here, Lee really putting this out there on a line for Fisher. And he takes the delicious bait.
Just past 70 minutes into this game.
Yeah, so just under 10 minutes until the cap comes on. If you haven't reached 15 by that point, we will finish the point, add one to the highest score, and that'll become our new score cap.
10 minutes, how do you feel about getting to 15? I think we might not see it, maybe the final point.
I think, I feel like we probably might not get all the way, especially with the time in between points factored in as well. But I think for Deep Space's point of view, just keep this game as close as you can going into the cap. Give yourself the best possible chance of making the comeback.
Yeah, funny things do happen when the cap comes on.
Yeah, we've all seen it.
Not seeing a zone this time from Deep Space.
Hogan. Scuba over the top there to Leicester on the far side. Creative way to start the possession. Sam Wilson finds a picked Andy Lewis.
Notably, Hillman picking up Lewis for the latter part of this game. Not an easy matchup to try and deal with.
Sam Wilson underneath to Roberts. Roberts pivoting, takes the around break, continuation to Caudron. Here's Lewis. He's got a gun if he wants it. Put a little inside shape on this flick. It's going to float and hang and tipped out of the back of the end zone by Deep Space. Trying to get a spy on who the defender is there. I think that might be Tom Davis.
Great bit of help D from Davis. Had a lot of ground to make up, but the disc did hang. Had opportunity to get into good space and take it down. Deep Space now, option to break.
Yeah, they've done very well this second half of, obviously they dug themselves a big deficit, but they've not let Reading pile on that. If anything, they've come back a little bit in this second half.
Yeah, they're definitely showing a lot more fight as they get used to what Reading are trying to do.
Rain really beginning to hammer down now in the Midlands. Low towards the sideline. Ali Thomas finds Denniston downfield.
Spending a lot of time on their end zone line there. Not yet past the brick.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence now that we're seeing Denniston play both ways. Got some offense and some defense out there.
Well, if you're going to shorten the line, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and that's the sort of player that you'd want to do it for.
Exactly. And as we mentioned earlier, if you don't win this game, you are in danger of ending up in the game to go. That's like all teams want to avoid.
Yeah, obviously you want to win the gold medal, but with 4 spots to Euros, you all of a sudden, maybe, that another loss would put you in that game to go. A situation that at the start of the day you would not have seen yourself in.
Most of the movement still coming from in that handler space. Deep Space finally making it up to the halfway line.
Hillman to Denniston. Denniston's got a target in the end zone, looking for Kovshov. He's got it. Deep Space break, just 2 down now at 11-9.
How did they leave him so free in the deep space? A switch clearly not working well for Reading there.
Yeah, a blown switch, a busted coverage, whatever it was. Deep Space did the right thing and took advantage of it. Just 2 points down now. As you mentioned, that's their second break of this second half.
Yeah, they're coming back strong. Reading need to make sure they finish this game in a professional and strong manner, otherwise they could be in danger of a bit of a maybe cap upset.
Yeah, about 5 minutes till that cap comes on. If you're Reading, what are you going to cook up on offense here?
I think offense, they just stay to what they've been talking about, which is forget about it, make sure we work hard. I don't think they need to change a huge amount. I think most of the errors are coming from slight miscommunications. They're being put under a lot of pressure, but it is a quality outfit. The main thing I would say is they need to keep pushing deep space on D. They need to still turn them over. They need to take time out of this game that way and just rely on their O to put the quick points in.
So they're setting out there for Reading, just giving some final instructions and advice. Deep space ready to go. Looks like Joyce Kwok to pull.
Delay from both teams. It does feel like a pivotal moment in this game. This point, whichever way it goes, could indicate the result.
Kwok pulls to about level with it, maybe just beyond that brick mark. Hill picks up first pass to Lewis. Caudron with that black headband. Underneath to Bignall. Bignall just floats that one to Leicester. Doesn't like the cut of Coward. Resets to Bignall. Huge churning underneath there from Klima. So much separation.
Bit of jinking in that far side channel, not really doing much, but resetting well through Reading.
Bignall to Lewis. Hill comes to the open side, collects the dish off. Thought Lewis was going to look for the give-go, but instead he goes deep. Bignall threatens the break side, comes towards the open. Bignall marked up against Vial, and Bignall to the end zone where he finds Ruth Caudron, making it 12-9. That's got to be a big confidence booster for Reading.
That's what Reading's O-line needed. Don't give their D-line a sniff. Work really hard, and I think that point had three distinct elements. First part, they were looking really, really smooth, working very well. As they got towards the red zone, they did start to stutter. They slowed down, but the handlers really maturely kept the disc alive. Final point, again, smooth, flowing offense, scoring up the line in that far corner of the end zone that we've seen most of the points scored at that end.
Yeah, it's interesting because the benefit of kind of working just a bit more patiently like that is A, you're not really giving deep space any big play opportunities, and B, it is a good kind of morale boost for your O-line to have to work out of a couple of tight spots, high stalls, good handler marks, that sort of thing, and to still come through it pretty smoothly.
Exactly, and that's one thing that they mentioned before the game. They've been in this position, they've played those tight games, they've had those tight matchups, and they've come on top. They've got that confidence in themselves. And to your other point about not giving the defense an option to bid, that's going to be really important in this game because they are going to take those options. They need to take those opportunities to bid if they're going to get into this game.
Sidelines trying to get loud to G up their teammates. Knight will pull here for Reading. Going with that blade. Denniston puts a hand down to stop it. Handler picks up to Vial. And moving it quickly to Sandwell. Already at the halfway mark pretty much here is Fisher. Finds that thread across. Handler continues to Denniston.
Knight doesn't need to throw those roly pulls. He has the distance. He can throw the big one. That's a massive bid to keep that disc alive.
Brilliant stuff from Fisher. Yeah, maybe just trying something a little bit different. Didn't get the roll that he wanted with it.
Yeah, with combination with the zone, but also maybe a sneaky nod to the fact that the ground is slick. Make sure the disc is wet.
Interesting thought. I hadn't considered that, but yeah, certainly a consideration, you'd imagine. Here's Fisher on the far side. You can see that that jersey that once was white, now very much not. Here's Lee on this near side. Lee to Vial. Gives it back. Now Fisher. Again, plenty of space on the far sideline for Denniston. But the possession taking time out of off the clock. Oh, I think that might have been tipped by Hagen, but Vial brings it in regardless.
Definitely a tip on that, but not enough to make it too tricky. There was so much space for Vial over in that sideline.
Handler, just a little pop there to Fisher. Reading sticking with this zone all the way to the end zone where space is at a premium, and Handler just stays firm at the front of the end zone there for maybe a goal, but maybe not. Was she on the line?
That's definitely what the conversation is. Players on the sideline with lots of opinions.
I must admit, when we're on this near sideline, even at this raised angle here on the pavilion balcony, it is so tricky sometimes to see what's going on that far sideline.
Especially with the amount of traffic that was on that far sideline, as you can see here, lots and lots of players involved. Just sneaking into that corner, defense kind of forget that they're there.
I mean, I can't tell you anything based on what I've seen there.
No, I think that's going to be entirely down to the players.
Of course, what we think in the booth isn't important. It's about the players on the field coming to a resolution that they're all happy with. There's the hooter to signal the time cap coming on.
Maybe her far foot is on that line, planted when she catches the disc.
Yeah, again, it is tricky to see. I think they're going to send the contest it and send this back. Same again.
With 1 foot up.
Now they're going into the backfield instead for Denniston. Here's Handler. Handler hammers over the top. Fisher's got plenty of time underneath it. Sandwell.
Fisher getting a lot of disc at this point, working really well through that zone, finding the gaps, getting momentum into this offense.
That one, Vial goes to ground, but keeps it up. Yeah, everyone seems pretty happy with that. He checked, but I don't think anyone was calling it down.
We didn't have the best view, but it looked pretty up from here.
Denniston. Short to Handler. Handler again, happy to hammer over the top. This time Sandwell's the target. And Sandwell, I thought, was going to demand the disc back there from Fisher, but Fisher had other ideas. It's the blade over the top to Vial. Reading's defense is still forcing Deep Space to really grind this point out. Trying to matriculate the disc down the field. Cheeky little scoob. Denniston, Sandwell, comfortable toe in.
Couple of options they could have threaded there, but they elect to go back around the back to Handler.
Yeah, I think they know that they need to score this point. They cannot let Reading create any more separation.
And now the time gap has been applied, time really doesn't matter anymore.
This one pops up a little bit,
great
and
take.
Hagen brings it down brilliantly. Dishes it off tonight. That time, Deep Space maybe could have taken the opportunity to force it into the end zone, tried to play it around the back, and in the end, got it wrong, and Hagen was there.
There's always one of the risks. If you take your time, play around the back, you're going to get yourself in a situation where you make a mistake.
Here's Coons on the far sideline. Wanted Palmer there, instead floating it over the top. Ben Wilson brings it down. Palmer underneath. High one-handed grab. Palmer hammering towards the far sideline. Joe Brown's in plenty of space. Couple of steps outside the end zone. I wonder if Reading will get the temptation to force it in. They do tonight. That'll be 13-9, a break for Reading, their first of the second half, and it's game to 14.
That does feel like a big enough buffer for Reading to be able to eke it out. Reading's O-line have had moments of issues, but they've been looking quite smooth also on occasion. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out in this potentially final point.
Yeah, have a look at it again. Couple of spicy, dicey moments there. Was that close down call? And this one from Sandwell across. Hagen picks that off brilliantly.
Yeah, beautiful bit of D there, leaving a little bit too much for the intended receiver to do.
Yeah, I think as well, just waiting for it a little bit. And Hagen showed that you couldn't take that opportunity, and then just jamming it in the jam hole at the front of the end zone to Dom Knight. It's always open if you throw it hard enough.
Exactly, you can throw it through the receivers with enough venom.
So Reading 1 point away from finals here.
Deep Space taking their time.
Reminder that we've got a full day of play for you here at UKU Nationals live and for free on ULTI.TV's YouTube channel. The Open final is up next. Clapham versus Alba. Lorcan Murray and Hannah Pendlebury will be with you for that one, and that starts at 10 to 11 local time here in Nottingham.
Thoroughly excited for that game. Really happy to see Alba in the final.
Yeah, big moment for them. And tell you what, if they can display some of what we've seen from them so far this weekend, it's going to be an absolute corker.
Exactly, dominating performance over Ranelagh yesterday. Thoroughly enjoyable game to watch.
You were on the call for that one, weren't you?
I was. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I look forward to watching it back later. Handler, the ball died on her a little bit, but she caught well. It's the last thing Deep would have needed is the drop ball. Not that Handler looked flustered at all.
Guido taking his time.
Oh, and off the hand of Vile. Just you could see the wind pop that up a little bit. And Vile chose to try and take it early and only tipped it away. Hutchison picks up for Reading with a chance to seal a place in the final.
This is definitely within one pass for Hutchinson.
The winner of this game plays the winner of Smog versus Lemmings, and Hutchison wants to end it in style. He's looking for Bignall at the back of the end zone. Bignall elevates and posterizes, and we will see Reading later today in the mixed final.
I'd say that was a thoroughly complete performance from Reading. They had a couple of moments, they had a couple of wobbles, but they've shown their experience against adversity here, I think, especially considering some of the baggage that can come with this game. I did maybe overhear a deep space player or two saying that it's going to be okay, Reading are going to fluff it, they're going to choke, but they didn't choke today.
No, didn't even look close to it, and you know what, maybe not the calmest way to end a game. This certainly has a good degree of spice on it, but Mark Bignall certainly, it seems, can handle the Scoville scale on that one. 14-9 final score, Reading over Deep Space. As we mentioned, Smog versus Lemmings is your other semi-final. I haven't had an update on the way that's gone. Certainly, according to the form book, you'd expect Smog to take it, but that's why you play the games. Elsewhere, out on the pitches, as we mentioned, up next to 10:50 local time, Clapham versus Alba. We have a women's semi-final for you at 20-1. The mixed final, which will be Reading versus Smog or Lemmings at 2:30, whereas the women's final takes place at 4:20 this afternoon. It is a bumper day of Ultimate here.
Yeah, fantastic schedule. Fantastic schedule for all of you watching. Some really, really good Ultimate here at European Qualifiers West or UK Nationals. Lots and lots of high-level teams throughout all of the divisions. Thoroughly enjoyable Ultimate.
Yeah, we are not sure who's going to be in the women's semi-final that we're streaming at 12:40 yet, because it's dependent on the kind of the quarterfinals, we'll call them, the tops, the way the women's women's division work. The top on each pool goes straight to semis, and then the 2s and 3s play across in those kind of quarter-final style matchups. So we haven't seen exactly who that's going to be yet. We think we're going to be streaming the Gravity versus winner of Bristol Iceni game, but we will get that confirmed for you ASAP.
Yeah, it's a slightly unconventional schedule for the women's division.
It's one of those things where when you've got 10 teams, you've got to make a schedule that's not quite as nice.
Exactly, but the top half of that women's division is incredibly competitive. It could go either way. It's very nice to see the talent in the country dispersed among many clubs, helping other players develop and get experience that high-level Ultimate. Not necessarily working for us across the European scale and Worlds, but hopefully developing some really strong female players.
Yeah, I think any team that's in that top 6 at the moment, that's the pool winners, Gravity and LMU, and the kind of the quarter finalists, Bristol Iceni on one side, Spice Sick on the other. If everything comes together, we could see any of those in the final later. But back to the matter at hand. Just going to get a couple of replays going through what was, I think, a pretty consummate performance from Reading. I think they can be very happy with what they put out there as well, especially because due to technical problems we couldn't quite stream the game yesterday. So nice for them to get some footage down on tape. And delighted to say that Hannah Pendlebury is down on the sideline. She's been able to grab Bex Palmer for a cheeky post-game interview. Hannah, over to you.
So Bex, congratulations, finally winning a semi-final at UK Nationals. Congrats, how's it feel?
Feels like we've finally broken a 6-year streak, I'll tell you that.
So obviously you guys lost in sudden death to Deep Space at regionals. What did you guys do differently coming into this game compared to last time?
So we were missing quite a handful of players at regionals, and I think they had their full squad. So the fact that we had everybody back today, it definitely felt like we were back at work with the same positivity and support that we'd had at work, which I think was really the difference in this game.
Nice. Was there anything that they did particularly that impressed you compared to, obviously, because you've played each other a number of times?
So the end zone there, that kind of last couple of points, when they held in our end zone, we had our zone on them. Total respect for the way they composed themselves, and it was literally just like one moment, but they held out for so long. And they trust all their players, and I think that's always something for the last couple of years, especially, that I've always been impressed with them about.
Nice. And then, so obviously, now keeping your eyes on the final, you guys are going to be playing Smog for the first time ever at UK Nats. So what's going to be your kind of, look into that game?
I think we're just going to play it like we would normally. We've played them obviously out of season, and we've enjoyed those games, and we've won those games. So I think going in with just the fight that I think we want. We've wanted this game for so long, I think, at this stage. So I think we're just going to go in absolutely pumped, and we've just got to make sure we keep a lid on our, energy.
Absolutely. Well, good luck, have fun, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah, and thanks, Bex, for coming down for the post-game interview as well. As mentioned, the mixed final takes place at 2:30 here in Nottingham, so that's in 4 hours' time. But we've got a couple of games before then. Coming up next here on ULTI.TV is the open final here at UKU Nationals EUCR West. It's Clapham versus Alba. The first time it'll be a non-Clapham Chevron final in a decade. 2012 was the last time that happened, and I'm very much looking forward to it. That game starts in just under 20 minutes time, so you've got enough time to stretch off, make yourself something to eat, grab a brew, settle back down, and I look forward to watching that one with you on ULTI.TV's YouTube channel. For all of our crew here at UKU Nationals, for Michael Paul alongside me in the booth, my name is Benji Rees. It's been a pleasure to be with you for this game. The final score is Reading 14, Deep Space 9, and we'll see you on the other side.
ULTI.TV.